Hi, I'm Steve Hicks. I'm the older brother of Bill Hicks by 5 years. I'm a college graduate. My older sister is a college graduate. Both my parents are college graduates. And when Bill came along, he said 1 week out of high school, he said, I'm going to go to LA and be a comedian. And we didn't really understand at all what that meant. But my parents, who were always very supportive and continued to be, but they were very confused about that and didn't know exactly how to handle it. So Bill said, well, I've got this guy that I'm going to go out there with. He's another comedian, and we're going to have him over to dinner, and he can tell you that, this is legitimate and we're good and we're going to make this happen. So it was from that Sam Kinison ended up at dinner at my parents' house out in a suburb of Houston. Sam Kinison at my house with my very conservative Southern Baptist family convinced them that he was going to protect Bill and watch after Bill when they made their trek out to L.A. Sam was much older than Bill, 7, 8, 9 years older maybe, I'm not exactly sure, but much older. Bill was just a teenager. And Sam was a big influence on Bill, and they really hit it off. Bill did, if you saw some of his early comedy, very clean, very cute, sort of high school type comedy, very good, but that sort of perspective, because that's what he was. He was a high school kid. Sam, at that point, was starting to push limits and did a lot of screaming, as he became known for later. They'd sort of become top of the heap in Houston and decided they were going to go to L.A., which was sort of the mecca for comedy, and they were going to try to make it out there.
Prayer, right now is illegal in school. Isn't that weird? Where kids going into stalls in the bathrooms. Dear God, dear Lord, dear Jesus. What's going on in here? Nothing! You praying? No! I saw the Holy Ghost sneaking out of that door.
A few months after Bill was out in L.A., actually 5 months, he got hired to do a sitcom called Bulba. And I think we can all just be thankful that these days that never was picked up as a series. It was not very good. I thought Bill was great in it, but we thought he'd made it. Again, us not being in show business at all, we had no idea. And then here he was 5 months in L.A. He's just out of high school, and he's already hired on a television sitcom. As he gained perspective later on, he would not have been found dead in a TV sitcom. But at the time, 18 years old, it seemed like a reasonable thing. But when Sam found out that Bill made quite a bit of money out of 1 week of work at this sitcom, Sam demanded that Bill pay him some of that money and sort of strong-armed him and bullied him, and Bill would ignore him and try not to run into him, but being in the same field and being from the same place, Bill finally acquiesced just to get Sam off his back and gave him some money, and that was sort of where they sort of drifted apart at that point.
Right. Oh, God, what a great crowd, what a great night. Isn't that a beautiful night for a stinky fucking day, huh? Big shifteroo by God, keep us on our toes. Oh!
In 1988, when Bill quit doing drugs and quit drinking and really cleaned up his life, and things began to sort of start happening for him, he got booked back on Letterman a couple of times. He had not been on there. He'd been on there twice early on in 84 and 85, and then wasn't on again until about 88 because he was just so sporadic and inconsistent, and he wasn't getting a lot of jobs during that time. But anyway, he cleaned up his act completely, and things began to happen for him. So the first special that he did was a little 5 or 7 minutes on a Rodney Dangerfield HBO Young Comedian special. Years later, I met Rodney Dangerfield, and someone introduced me and told him I was Bill's brother. And this was after Bill died, and he called me over to his table, and he told me the story of how he chose Bill for that first HBO special over Tim Allen, of all people. And basically the story was that they were very close in his mind and in Rodney Dangerfield's mind, but he liked Bill because of his edginess. That Tim Allen was sort of more mainstream and Bill was edgy, and he wanted edgy on there, so he chose Bill.
Oh man, I felt today I had some money in my pocket, which in and of itself is a novelty. I had some cash, I had some jack, I had some green. And I had this deep emptiness within me heart, and I didn't know what it was for. And I wandered through the streets of Houston until I came to a pawn shop, and something led me through the door. You ever been to a pawn shop? Interesting, aren't they? You can tell by my clothing I'm a bargain shopper. In a pawn shop you can get all sorts of things that people have to give up because they have to pay their rent, their light bill, and their phone bill. You can see a whole line of guitars, but I didn't need a guitar. I saw a bunch of TVs, but I hate TV. Then lo and behold, I came to the gun rack, and a light went off in my head. I said, this is what I've been missing. One of these phallic-shaped weapons that shoot hot lead sperm at 3,000 miles per hour. I could use this in my life. So I bought a 45 caliber automatic 8-clip pistol. For several different reasons. One of them, the next time I'm at an intersection behind a guy and we're in the right lane and it's a red light and his right blinker is blinking and there's no traffic and he does not make the turn, I'm pulling him out of the car. You can make a right on a red, you fucking asshole.
And then after that, he and a couple of friends down in Austin, Texas, decided that his material started to take on that tone and become the signature material that people have known him so much for all these years later, that they wanted to film their own version of Bill doing a show in Austin, Texas, his sort of adopted hometown. So they filmed it one night in July of 1989, I believe, and that later became Sane Man.
Come on. Yeah. It's good to be here. I haven't been here in 2 years. Thanks. That warmth I've missed in Austin. So, we've been here. Not our fault you gotta travel around. Shit. We supposed to follow you around? You're supposed to be back here. What are you doing? Where are you?
And then after that, as he was beginning to get some notoriety, in 1991, HBO contacted him and wanted him to do his first half-hour special. And that became the HBO One Night Stand.
Please welcome Bill Hicks. Chicago!
It was filmed in Chicago, and I flew up there with Bill. We went out to lunch one day, and I said, hey, Bill, out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, how much are they paying you for this half hour? He said, $30,000 for a half hour. I said, you buy lunch then, you sucker.
I find that commercial a tad insulting to my intelligence. You know the one, here's your brain. I've seen a lot of things on drugs, but I have never, ever, ever looked at an egg and thought it was a fucking brain, not once. I have seen UFOs split the sky like a sheet, but I have never looked at an egg and thought it was a fucking brain, not once. I have had 7 balls of light come off of a UFO, lead me onto their ship, explain to me telepathically that we are all one and there's no such thing as death. But I've never looked at an egg and thought it was a fucking brain. Now, maybe I wasn't getting good shit, but
Now, the first special filmed was Sane Man. The first special released was One Night Stand. Sane Man didn't come out till much later.
Saw a sign by the road in Tennessee once that said, dirt for sale. What a great country we live in, huh? Dirt for sale. Boy, how'd you like to get inside that guy's mind and look around for an hour, huh? This guy sees opportunity at every glance, doesn't he? It's a big world for this gentleman. Oh my God, honey! Honey, quit serving waffles and come here, baby. I'm gonna sell dirt. Look, it's everywhere. You need it for a planet, honey! The place was called Land.
That got him sort of some international notoriety, and people began to take notice in other places. And the first place that came up was the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. And it's the largest comedy festival in the world. And Bill went up there the first year when he went up there was just as any other comedian, where I think he had like a 5 or 7 or 10 or 15 minute spot on some show up there in one of the clubs. And it was from that producers really liked what they saw and wanted him back the next year to have the signature show, the one-man show at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. This was a huge coup, and that's what was filmed and then became Relentless. Pay very close attention at the very end when it ends and Bill is walking off stage, because back when Bill was getting ready to do that show, he contacted me and asked if I'd help him pick out the music for it. He always liked to have intro music when he came out on stage. And so the song that Bill picked for the intro and the exit to that show was Tomorrow Never Knows by the Beatles. And but when the DVD came out, they were not able to get the licensing rights for those songs. So at the very end of the show, you will, as Bill's leaving the stage, you'll see him stop and he points up and mouths the Beatles, because that's what the people in the original audience that night were hearing. It being in Montreal, and this was Bill's first visit to Canada, he thought it was going to be cold up there. So he has on a jacket and a black turtleneck sweater, and the sweat is just pouring off him during the entire show. So he realized when it was over, he had dressed wrong for that.
So I'm up here and it's Canada, and I'm thinking, you know, Canada, cold. Huskies, you know, and I'm wearing, if you notice, the black cotton fucking turtleneck. Because, ladies and gentlemen, apparently summertime means the same thing even in the French provinces.
That went so well, and it was so well received, that then the same producer and director of that show wanted to film another one of Bill in England the next year. And that was filmed at a 2,500 seat theater, sold out, packed 3 deep apparently, at the Dominion Theater in London. And that show became Revelations. Bill, throughout his whole career, off and on would go back and touch Elvis. And sometimes he would come out dressed as Elvis and do a routine, and sometimes he would come out and talk a lot about Charlie Hodge, who was the man that brought Elvis his scarves and his water.
So what else, man?
What was the last thing you said, man, before you died?
Before I died? Oh, I remember, it's very confusing now. I went in there to take my daily constitutional, which takes up to 3 or 4 days to do it. I call it my weekly constitutional. I changed the whole name around just so it would fit more or less my first name. See, my last words were wrap toilet paper, and then I said, man, I don't remember the floor being that close. And then I woke up here, man, and Jerry Lee Lewis going to get used to it.
What other famous people, rock and roll people do you have up there?
Well, strangely enough, it's just me and Jerry Lee.
One year when he was about 12, Elvis Presley was coming to Houston, Texas to perform at the rodeo there. And so I was going to drive Bill and one of his friends down there. And I thought I was very cool, so I used to smoke these real cheap cigars back then called Swisher Sweets. And Bill in the back seat, who was very pure and young and naive at that time, doing what later became known as the coughing joke.
I think there's bigger fish to fry than the fact the guy enjoys a cigarette now and again. I really do. You non-smokers are a little too finicky for me. War in the Persian Gulf, the economy's gone bust, recession. Quit smoking! That's what's troubling us. I'll tell you the worst kind of non-smoker, kind where you're smoking, they just walk up to you. I always say, shoot, you're lucky you don't smoke. That's a hell of a cough you got there, dude. I smoke all day and don't cough like that. Have you seen a doctor? I'm worried about you.